I've done this for 12 years. I never thought I'd use that skill in my own home. It started on a Tuesday in October. A job got canceled. The client's permits weren't ready, so I came home early, around 1 in the afternoon. When I opened the door, the apartment smelled wrong. Not bad, just different. There was a cologne in the air that wasn't mine. Something sharp and woody, the kind of scent that hangs around for a while after someone leaves. Jenna's shoes were by the door, but her keys were warm on the counter. She was in the kitchen making a sandwich like nothing was unusual. I asked her how her morning was, and she said, "Quiet. Just stayed in." My name is Nate. I'm 38. Jenna and I had been married for 7 years. She managed a cocktail bar downtown, the kind of place with low lighting and a wait list on Fridays. She worked nights, which meant our schedules barely overlapped. I was usually out the door by 7:30 in the morning. She'd still be asleep. That Tuesday, I didn't say anything about the cologne. I ate lunch, changed my shirt, and drove to my next job. But the smell stayed in my head the rest of the day, and the rest of the week. The first time I noticed was on a Tuesday. I came home early because a job got canceled. The client's permits weren't ready. I pulled into the parking lot around 1 in the afternoon and saw that Jenna's car was gone. That was strange. She didn't have to be at the bar until 5, and she usually spent her days off at home watching cooking shows or scrolling through her phone on the couch. I didn't think much of it. People run errands. People go out. But it happened again on Thursday, and then the following Monday. Always in the middle of the day, always when she knew I'd be across town running cables through someone's ceiling. She never mentioned where she'd been. I'd ask casually, "How was your day?" And she'd say something like, "Boring. Just stayed in." But her keys would be warm when I picked them up from the counter. Her shoes would be by the door with fresh scuffs on the soles. I told myself I was imagining things. Jenna and I had been married for 7 years. We weren't perfect, but we weren't broken either. At least that's what I believed. We still had dinner together most nights. She still kissed me when I left in the morning, quick, automatic, but it was there. The thing that really got to me was the phone. She'd always left it face up on the coffee table. Now it was face down. Every single time. I did something I'm not proud of. On a Wednesday morning, instead of driving to my first job, I parked 2 blocks away from our building and waited. I sat in my truck with the engine off and watched the entrance of our parking lot through the side mirror. For an hour, nothing happened. I felt ridiculous. A grown man sitting in his own truck, spying on his own wife like some character in a bad movie. I almost started the engine twice. My first client of the day called to confirm, and I told him I was running 15 minutes late. Then Jenna's car pulled out of the lot. She turned left toward downtown, not right toward the grocery store or the gym. I didn't follow her. I just watched the car disappear and sat there with my hands on the steering wheel. That night I decided to put in cameras, just for a few days, just to know. I told myself it wasn't a big deal. I installed these things for a living. 2 small units, one in the hallway and one covering the living room. Wireless, battery-powered, connected to an app on my phone. I placed them the next morning after she left for her shift. The first 3 days showed nothing. Jenna on the couch, Jenna making coffee, Jenna leaving around 4:30 for work. Normal life. I started to feel sick about what I was doing. I decided I'd take them down on Friday. One more day, then done. Thursday afternoon, I was on a ladder in a dentist's office, feeding a cable through a drop ceiling, when my phone buzzed. The camera app sent a motion alert from the hallway unit. I almost didn't check it. I'd been getting alerts all week. Jenna walking past, the cat jumping off the shelf. Nothing worth stopping for. But I opened it anyway, and I saw 2 people walking into my apartment. Jenna was first. Behind her was a man in a dark green jacket. He had his hand on the small of her back, casual, like he'd done it 100 times. She didn't flinch. She didn't step away. She leaned into it. I zoomed in on my phone and the image got grainy, but I could see enough. I recognized the jacket before I recognized the face. That dark green canvas jacket with the torn pocket on the left side. I'd seen it hanging on my own coat rack dozens of times. It was Cole. Cole, who I'd known since we were 22. Cole, who helped me move into that apartment. Cole, who sat on my couch last Super Bowl Sunday eating my chips and laughing at my jokes. Cole, who owned the car wash on Belmont and always gave me free washes because that's what friends do. I stood on that ladder with my phone in one hand and a coaxial cable in the other. The dentist receptionist asked if I was okay. I told her I needed a minute. I climbed down, walked to my truck, and sat there for a long time. I didn't go home that night until after midnight. I drove around for hours. No destination, no plan. Just the highway and the sound of my own breathing. When I finally walked through the door, Jenna was already asleep. The apartment smelled like the candle she always lit in the evenings, vanilla and cedar, and for a second everything felt normal. Like maybe I'd imagined the whole thing. But I hadn't. The footage was still on my phone. I sat on the edge of the bathtub at 2 in the morning and watched it again. Then I watched it a third time. I kept hoping I'd see something different. Maybe it wasn't Cole. Maybe it was someone who looked like him. Maybe the jacket was a coincidence. It wasn't a coincidence. On the fourth replay, I noticed something I'd missed. When they walked through the hallway, Cole reached up and hung his keys on the hook by the door. Not Jenna's hook. Not the guest hook. My hook. The one on the left, the one I always used. He knew the layout. He knew which hook was available because mine wouldn't be there during the day. That's when it stopped being a suspicion. That small gesture, keys on my hook, told me everything. This wasn't the first time. This wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. Cole had a routine in my apartment. He had a place for his keys. My wife was sleeping 10 feet away. I closed the app and put my phone face down on the sink. I didn't sleep that night. I should have acted that week. I should have said something, packed a bag, called a lawyer. Instead, I did what I knew best. I watched. Every day, I checked the cameras. Every day, I saved the files. Cole came over 3 more times that week, always between noon and 2, always when I was supposed to be on the other side of town. I watched them walk in together. I watched him hang his keys on my hook. I watched her pour him coffee in the mug I got her for our 5th anniversary, the blue one with the chipped handle. It became a routine of its own. I'd sit in my truck between jobs, open the app, and just stare. I started losing focus at work. A client in Bucktown complained that I mounted a camera at the wrong angle. I forgot to invoice a restaurant job I'd finished 2 weeks earlier. My coworker asked if I was feeling all right, and I told him it was just allergies. At night, I'd lie next to Jenna and listen to her breathe. She slept easily. No tossing, no guilt keeping her up. That bothered me more than anything. 3 weeks went by like that. I told myself I was gathering evidence, building a case, being smart about it. But the truth was simpler. I was afraid. Afraid that the moment I said something out loud, the life I'd built over 7 years would officially be gone. Then on a Thursday morning, my phone rang. It was Cole. He said he missed hanging out and asked if I wanted to grab a beer after work. Like old times, he said. I hung up without saying goodbye. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. Something had snapped. 3 weeks of watching, 3 weeks of silence. And now this man was calling me to grab a beer like we were still buddies. Like he hadn't been walking into my home every other afternoon and hanging his keys on my hook. I opened the camera app, found the clearest clip, the one from last Tuesday where you could see his face perfectly as he walked through the hallway, and sent it to his number. No message, no caption, just the video file with the timestamp visible in the corner. 12:47 p.m. My apartment, my hallway, my wife beside him. Then I put the phone down and went back to work. I had a residential install in Lincoln Park that afternoon, and I finished it clean. Best work I'd done in weeks. My hands were steady. My head was quiet. Something about finally doing one thing, just one concrete thing, after weeks of watching made me feel like I could breathe again. Cole never replied. He didn't call back. He didn't text. Just silence. That evening I came home, and Jenna was standing in the hallway staring at the wall above the coat rack. She'd found one of the cameras. She turned to me with a look I'd never seen before. Not anger exactly. More like a calculation. Like she was running numbers in her head, trying to figure out how much I knew. She asked me, "How long have we had cameras?" I set my bag down by the door and said, "Long enough." She grabbed her phone the second the words left my mouth. But then she stopped. She looked up at the camera on the wall, reached for it, and tried to pull it off. The mount held. I drilled it into a stud, same way I do for clients. She pulled harder, twisting it, and the plastic casing cracked, but the unit stayed. She turned to the living room and went straight for my laptop on the desk. She opened it and started clicking through folders, looking for the footage. I watched her from the hallway without moving. I said, "It's all backed up. Has been for weeks." Her hand stopped on the keyboard. She sat there for a moment, staring at the screen. Then she grabbed her phone and started calling Cole. I could hear the ringing from where I stood. It rang 5 times and went to voicemail. She tried again. Same thing. Cole had seen the footage hours ago. Whatever conversation they needed to have, he wasn't picking up. I said, "Don't bother. He already knows." She put the phone down and looked at me. I expected tears or shouting or some kind of explanation. But she just stood there staring at me like I was the one who'd done something wrong. I walked past her into the bedroom, pulled a duffel bag from the closet, and started packing. Enough for a week. She followed me to the doorway. She said, "Where are you going?" I zipped the bag, picked up my keys from the counter, and told her I'd be at my brother's. I walked out the door and drove to Danny's apartment across town. I slept on Danny's couch for 4 nights. He didn't ask many questions. He made coffee in the morning, left for work, and let me sit in his living room staring at the wall. Jenna called 11 times the first day. I didn't answer. She sent long texts, paragraphs full of words like confused and complicated and not what it looked like. I read the first one and deleted the rest without opening them. On the second day, she changed her approach. Shorter messages. "Can we just talk?" Then, "You owe me a conversation, Nate." I almost laughed at that one. I owe her a conversation. Cole tried once. A single text on the 3rd day. "Nate, let me explain. It's not." I didn't read past those 5 words. I blocked his number and set the phone on the table. Danny saw me do it and just nodded. On the 4th morning, I woke up early and made a decision. Not an angry one, a quiet one. I spent the day making calls. Found a 1-bedroom apartment in Ravenswood, available immediately. Signed the lease that afternoon with a deposit I'd been keeping in a savings account Jenna didn't know about. Not because I'd been planning this. I just never got around to merging all our accounts, and now I was glad I hadn't. The next day, while Jenna was at the bar, I went back to the apartment with Danny and his truck. We packed everything that was mine in under 2 hours. I left her stuff exactly where it was. Didn't touch a single thing of hers. A week after I moved out, Danny called me while I was at work. He said a guy had shown up at the old apartment looking for me. Green jacket. Drove a black pickup. Danny had gone over to grab a piece of mail I'd forgotten, and the guy was standing outside the building, buzzing the intercom. "Cole." Danny said he looked rough, unshaved, tired, like he hadn't slept in a while. He told Danny he just needed 5 minutes to talk to me. Danny said I wasn't there anymore and that he should probably stop coming around. Cole asked where I'd moved. Danny told him he didn't know and went inside. I sat with that information for the rest of the afternoon. Part of me wanted to hear what he had to say. Not because I thought there was an explanation that could fix anything. There wasn't. But because some piece of me still remembered the guy who helped me carry a couch up 3 flights of stairs when I first moved in. The guy who drove 40 minutes in a snowstorm to jump my truck battery one January. 16 years of friendship doesn't just disappear because you want it to. But I didn't call him, and I didn't go back. That same evening, Jenna sent one final message. Not a paragraph this time. Just 4 words. "You could have stayed." I read it twice. Then I set the phone down on my kitchen counter. My new kitchen counter, in my new apartment, in a building where nobody knew my name yet. I didn't reply. The new apartment was small. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that barely fit a table for 2. The walls were white and empty. No pictures, no shelves, nothing hanging anywhere. It looked like a place someone had just moved into or was about to move out of. I couldn't tell which one I was. I filed for divorce on a Monday, walked into the office, signed the papers, and walked out. It took less than an hour. 7 years reduced to a stack of forms and a signature. I drove back to Ravenswood and sat in the parking lot for a while before going inside. Danny checked in every couple of days. He never pushed, never asked if I was okay, because we both knew the answer. He'd just call, talk about the Bears or some job he was working on, and hang up after 10 minutes. That was enough. I went back to work full-time the following week. Took every job that came in, residential, commercial, didn't matter. I needed my hands busy and my head focused on something with wires and blueprints instead of memories. On a Saturday afternoon, about a month after I'd moved in, I finally unpacked the last box. Inside was my drill, a level